Okay, so hey, this is Leroy Moore, and interviewing Dustin. So, Dustin, I want to really talk about your work. I'm very impressed about your work around police brutality, because I've been doing it since the 80s, and seeing another brother with a disability doing that work was really impressive to me. And you also work in disability. So tell us about your work. Tell us where you're at now.
Cool. Yeah. Well, my name's Dustin. I'm calling right now from Hartford, Connecticut. I've been here for.
Hartford?
Yeah.
I grew up in Hartford.
Yeah.
I grew up in East Hartford and West Hartford.
Word. I live in Asylum Hill right now.
Oh my God! Okay.
That's wild too, because like another one of my elders, Ken Mitchell, he grew up in Hartford, but he lives in like Atlanta now. So I've known him through independent living stuff, but I didn't know that he lived in Connecticut for some time.
Oh wow! I thought you were in Philly or Baltimore or somewhere.
Pittsburgh. I was in Pittsburgh for like 7 years.
Wow. Okay.
Well, I started kind of doing this work through the independent living movement. Through that, I worked at a center in Pittsburgh, well, 3 different centers right outside of Pittsburgh, doing like a lot of like direct service work, which I still do, and then being part of like a disability rights movement. But it wasn't until I linked up with like other Black disabled people where I started to transition to doing disability justice work. And that being like rooted in deinstitutionalization still, and decarceration and abolition work. So like as it currently stands, I help get people free from institutions or support them through it, psych wards, asylums, nursing facilities, prisons, jails, and then help support peer support networks that people can build up on their own once they are out. And that's like the crux of it. Everything else kind of just like flows together. Like the decarceration work, I do like some work around policing, and that's usually like in the form of like supporting coalitions that are trying to do things.
Wow, so being a person of color, are you African American?
Yeah.
Yeah. So being a Black disabled man, in disability rights, disability justice, and incarceration. What do you see the movement needs to do? As a Black disabled man.
Well, I feel like the movement needs to like hold our own people more so than at least I have in the past. It feels like a lot of the work or energy, just on a broad level, has been focused on inclusion into whether that be spaces that disability is erased or Blackness is erased. And it feels like it needs to be more like internal work of building up our own Black disabled community. Building our own institutions, having conversations, being in community with one another. That's like one of the things that like is always in the forefront of my mind, is like the me not knowing for the longest that there's other Black disabled people in the world, and then it feels like an entirely different lifetime now that I know Black disabled people exist. I mean, the things that I've learned just about myself and about the world has just like vastly changed since that moment. So I think that needs to be the work, is like finding each other.
Wow, yeah, it's so true, so true. And also, I noticed that you are a poet or a hip hop artist. Yeah.
No, at one time, that's like a rite of passage for a young Black person to want to be a rapper. So yeah, back in the day, I used to record mixtapes, songs. I don't think I ever released anything. We used to sell them like hand to hand at like the fair and stuff, but
Uh, wow, that's cool. That's cool. So do you still write? Do you still write poetry, or do you still write songs?
nah, I just do jokes,
Okay.
jokes when I'm around people. But no, I haven't written a song in years now.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So get back to your work. What do you see in this police brutality? We've been through Black Lives Matter, and now the coming out of the recent killing. And what do you see about because for me, doing this since the 80s, once again I see Black disabled people being left behind. So, what's your thought about police brutality today, yesterday, and tomorrow?
Yeah, well, I think that it feels like for me at least in a lot of the spaces I was in, it felt like the focus was on like extreme situations of police violence, and it was also framed as if these were violent incidents that just happened during the course of policing. But I've since moved to like an understanding that policing in and of itself is a violence. And if we're to understand like what has happened to Black disabled people for generations now, then we understand like the formulation of police and just their existence is a way to police bodies, minds. It's a way to criminalize people's behaviors. It's a way to pathologize disability. And now the project for me is just abolishing police to the point where we're not being policed like that, right? As long as we have police, we will have prisons, jails, institutions, and then those places are always going to be overpopulated with disabled people, right? Either that's the reason that they're actually going into these sites of confinement, or while in the site of confinement, they will develop disabilities. Also, like that extreme understanding of, or the extreme incidents, a focus on that, I think we missed the mark by talking about all the ways in which policing is just violent in general. Like just to think about us being under surveillance, and by us, like Black and brown communities, 24/7, and like the impact that that'll have on us, right? Also, like all of the harassment that comes along with it. So there's like all of these, like there's a myriad ways that policing itself enacts violence, but it feels like as movements we focus on police killings, which is definitely a part of it, but that's not all of it.
Yeah, yeah. Give us an example of a person that you help set free from institutions, group homes, or jails. Was there one case that you really felt good about?
Yeah. There's like one of the things I always what I'm always reminded of is like somebody that when I worked at one of the centers for independent living, do like nursing home transitioning. We don't call it homes anymore. We call them nursing facilities. They're not homes for a lot of people. Um, but stories of one person doing like cookies in a power chair in the parking lot every single day before she came into work was
Uh,
like something that like really resonated with me. Um, Also, uh, I'm just trying to think about like I don't have an individual person that I'm thinking of, but more so like what it feels like to collectively be in a space where everybody there had been institutionalized at one point, and then to just be thinking about other things. So, like when you're in an institution and want to get free, like your mind is on freedom, right? And that kind of controls your world. But once they're out, it's like now thinking about like what park is open on Saturday that we can go to and what time does it close? Like, so like just like routine life things. Um, Also there's like a couple in Georgia that got out of the state institutions there and were living together. So like while they're in the institution, like they were segregated their entire time there for decades, and then on the outside they were like they kept their love strong while in the institutions, and then on the outside were able to live together. So I think of like moments like that, and I've seen like a bunch of people be reunited with their families. Those are always moments that like I cherish and hold on to, and it reminds you of the reason why you do the work that you do. Yeah, to see people just like free is probably the biggest thing.
Yeah. And what did you think about? Because I thought about this when it happened, when Obama signed the act to do more community housing and less institutions. But on the other side, his housing authority chair at the same time, cut HUD. So you have one side saying that free the people from the institutions, but you have the other side that's cutting public housing. So what do, and then, especially now under Obama, I mean under Donald Trump, it's kind of weird because Donald Trump is taking Obama's lead on that issue. It's like the one issue that he took the lead from Obama to do more privatizing housing, which totally eliminates public housing. So does that affect your work? On trying to free people from institutions?
Yeah, so like I don't know much about like what happens at the federal level. Like we really lean on like the fair housing organizations in like whatever area I'm in. Um, but like on the ground, like that 1000%, like a lack of accessible and affordable housing is always an issue. When I'm thinking about like people in like Pennsylvania prisons, a lot of people are would qualify for parole as long as they had a housing and an employment plan. Um, for the disabled prisoners that I'm working with, like it's almost impossible to have a housing plan, right? And depending on like whatever their conviction is, it's almost impossible to get employment. So what ends up happening is they stay there and they max out on their time, when they really could have been released 4 years prior, 5, 6, 7 years prior. But they're just maxing out on that, and they're just still coming home to not having employment and not having housing. So that affects it. And then there's just like almost no affordable, accessible housing. So any cut to like any type of public housing fund has always impacted us. I'm thinking about the county in Pittsburgh where we allocate like just like maybe like 25 affordable, accessible houses for a specific program for people that would be nursing home eligible for the entire county. And every year I have hundreds of people that are asking for support in finding housing. So a lot of people are pushed into like segregated residential centers because of that. They're pushed into nursing facilities, or they're criminalized for not having housing. So yeah, it's always like at the forefront of it, and that's like one of the impacts. Like when we're not looking at things holistically, right? Like we know that housing is like a huge component of health, but now we're risking, even right now in Pennsylvania under managed care, insurance providers being able to determine like what is the need that you have to live a healthy life. And if any company I don't trust, right? But insurance companies I definitely don't. So
So you've been doing with a group of people, been doing um COVID-19 video chats. Tell us about how did that happen? Tell us about the team that you're working with, and tell us about what's coming next for that.
yeah, so myself, Saray Jarrell Johnson, Dorian Taylor, and Talila Lewis, we just all kind of had like individual conversations about some of the things that we wanted to see like out in the world and that would benefit us as people. And the biggest was being able to find each other. So we wanted to find a way to create space for that, knowing that this is a moment that a lot of disabled people are at risk for dying. A lot of disabled people are also poor, so they're essential workers and can't don't have the privilege to be protected as a lot of people do. We also know that this is also a moment that will be disabling, and a lot more people will become disabled because of this, and they'll be trying to figure out how to live. And then the last part of that is that as disabled people collectively, we've been innovators and could offer to the world ways to move and navigate through this that would benefit all of us. So all of those things into consideration, we wanted to address some of the gaps that were out there by hosting webinars and having people be able to like visibly find other folks, right? Like us to begin with, but hopefully transitioning to more people. We're putting together a collection of essays with it that will really like hone in on some of the gaps that have worked. We're working with Black Youth Project to put that on their site. And we're thinking with that is like, so I've been a part of a lot of abolitionist conversations. There's a huge movement to decarcerate prisons and jails, but they're not connecting that with like nursing facilities and asylums broadly, right? So to really talk about like what policing looks like for 302 orders in a time where more people will be isolated, possibly more people depressed, more people calling the police for welfare checks, and what that means for disabled people, right? So to try to address some of those gaps, we're going to do the webinars along with the collection of essays. And out of an act of solidarity, Black Youth Project has been like, cool, like we'll put it on the site. And we're really hoping to reach Black people, right? With those.
Good, great. So, you know, what do we do as Black disabled people to tackle what I call Black ableism? So, you know, Black disabled people can come home and really work within our Black communities.
I mean, you know that better than I do. So. I think, well, one of the things that's really helped, like, is like work of people like you, like the excavation of Black disabled history. Like, even during that last webinar, I forgot to say it. Like, hey, Jacob Lawrence was somebody that was in an institution, institutionalized, and this is the reason that his artwork was this, right? Like, so, like talking about how disability has always existed is like one way to help. I think another way, and this is like very important to me, is to leave the Western language of disability in the way in which like we talk about it in the U.S., right? It's like very white centric. It's very it derives from like a legal and a social services framework that inherently situates disability as a negative, as a deficit. But there's all of the ways in which Black folks in particular have talked about disability forever, but we don't use that same language. So I think one of the barriers is by coming in immediately and saying disability, saying chronic illness, rather than like talking about what we actually mean, right? Like some of the times we're talking about people living with diabetes, right? Like there's a process that needs to happen to form a political and social identity as disabled. And I think that we do that like in music. TL and I put out a disability solidarity playlist, 500 artists talking about disability, but never saying the word disabled. So I think about people like Lil Boosie who had cancer. And the reason he develops cancer is like a lot of disabled people that are incarcerated, right? And we wouldn't call him disabled. J. Cole, one of my favorite rappers, put out an entire album about addiction. He never said disability, but like all of those are like disability pieces of art. And I think that we get so caught up, at least I get caught up in using the Western language of disability to communicate with my own people that I miss the forest with the trees sometimes. So I think that's one of the ways. And then another way is like just absolutely just calling out like the ableism that transpires, right? So like the same way that the disability rights movements are not, that they've been racist. Like Black-centered movements have also been ableist, and I think calling in of that is like super critical for us to do that work, right? Like white people can't do that, nor would I want them to. I think that's something that needs to happen like within our own community.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. Can you email me the link of the playlist? I'd love to. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's cool. So what are you working on now? I know your work is ongoing, and your activism is ongoing. But what are the projects that you're looking forward to now?
Well, some of the big things is like coming out of that collection of essays that I was talking about with Saray and TL, trying to build like some type of informal network of Black disabled people to just be able to communicate with each other, and figuring out like where that lives, how it happens. Is it a monthly thing? Is it, yeah, just trying to figure that out. And we want to root it in political education as well.
Yeah.
So that's like another thing that like we know that has been missing is people being able to get together, and then once they're together, forming like a political ideology, right? Like it took me a while to become somebody that believes in abolition, and that's not going to be where everybody lands. But I think it's important that when we do have Black, visible, disabled people in the world, that they're also like have like a politic that benefits all of us, right? Because we don't want to run into a situation where Black disabled people become visible and then they're also peddling the same shit that we have had for decades that have been harming us. So yeah, to figure out what education looks like. Also, I just started at People's Hub, which is like an online movement school to do like some access implementation and disability justice, like connecting work. So I'm super hyped about that. The first project coming out of that is we're doing Crip Camp after parties. But as a part of that, trying to like train like deaf folks to be able to be tech support leads, facilitators, people that could hold space for non-hearing folks, and we can build upon that and take the lead from them. So those are just like a couple of the things.
And what would you say to Black, disabled, and deaf men and boys, in this society? Because there's a lack of anything around Black, disabled, and deaf boys and men.
I don't know. That's a tough one, right? Because like I want to be realistic about it, like that it is going to be hard. Like in there are absolutely systems that are set up to destroy us, but then also to know that like other people exist that are working to actively dismantle them, and being a part of collectives is at least for me much better experience than being an individual in the world, right? To view myself as a part of something larger has been critical. So yeah, and people came before us as well, so that's always like the biggest things for me. But yeah, and I love you. Like I think that's also like a big thing, right? Like a lot of disabled children, especially Black disabled children, are not being told or being cared about in a way that they know that they're loved.
Yeah. So anything else you want to promote? You talked about your future projects, but anything else that's coming up for you that people should know?
No, I've been interested more so in disabled art over the past few years. Um, but part of that interest has come from like the work that you've done and other people. But yeah, there's like artists like Yo-Yo Lin and Shannon Finnegan. I'm gonna now drop like a bunch of names like Saray, Jarrell Johnson, like people like that that I've really appreciated. Carolyn Lazard, where it's like this, especially in this moment of a pandemic, to know that art has existed that has spoken to this time before this time happens is like really interesting to me. And I'm trying to find new ways to communicate messages. Like the writing articles and essays and things like that is helpful, but it's not accessible to everyone. In the way in which I've learned and formed political ideology has not been through just reading essays and articles. A lot of it has been like on the ground in the community with people, different forms of media. So I say I'm interested in the art, one, just because I'm interested in consuming it, but also figuring out a way to leverage it and use it to advance political messaging and propaganda, quite frankly.
Cool. So once again, tell us how can people get in contact with you. Tell us how people can support your work and promote your work.
My website I have, which is dustinpgibson.com. That has a section on the website, Tree Moss, which is some of the places that I've pulled learning from. So there's a collection of articles, essays, media, just a list of people. There's also some offerings that I've put out into the world. Some of the webinars we recorded are there. Some articles, some video projects. And then from there, you could find like all my social medias, email, and all of that.
One more question, because it's been like, for me, it's been like knocking my head against the wall. So I bring this up in every conversation, especially with Black people. It's like, how do we get into these Black historical colleges around disability? I don't know. I've been on the college circuit for 21 years, and I had no clue.
Yeah, that like baffles. Yeah, I don't know, because there's such this paradox that like it feels like we live within. Like I just started community college this last semester. And before that, I had applied to a bunch of universities that didn't admit me, but they still invited me to speak and like paid me to speak, right? But they wouldn't admit me as a student. But then there's like another level to that where HBCUs, like I have never like spoken with somebody from HBCU about like speaking, like holding space. And also a lot of it is student driven, right? Like some of the universities that I go to, I work with student groups, whether that be like National Lawyers Guild or the Disability Group, sometimes like their racial justice groups. But the HBCUs, I've never, been in contact with them. They've never, so I don't know.
It's just weird. It boggles my mind. Yeah. Right.
It does as well, because I mean, I don't know too much about academia either, but I'm not familiar with any academics that work in HBCUs that are doing disability related work either.
Yeah. All right. Anything else? Last call.
No, I mean, I have questions for you, but
yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah. So I want to know, like, from your purview, like, how does it feel to have a generation of like younger Black disabled people working on some of the same things that you've been working on, and like also like what are some of the things that you look and you see like, damn, like I did that 20 years ago, like, so y'all should go another route? Like, how does that feel, and what are some of those things that you think we should be doing differently or we shouldn't do at all?
Oh my God, thank you for that question. I feel so excited now to see Black disabled people that are younger than me, taking on these issues. I was like, finally, So I'm so excited about that, and I just want to support it in any way. The thing that really is a downfall, and probably it's just me, is that I see a lot on social networking. I don't see a lot when I go to the streets, So that's really a downfall. Downfall is that And I understand it, and I understand people have to make money, they have to pay rent. I understand it. But I see a lot of Black disabled people being front people for white organizations. It's like, no. But I do understand you have to pay rent and all that stuff. So I do understand that. I would, I mean, there's tons of stuff that I would like to see. I would like to see, people in those situations to push their boss or to push the institutions to have pilot programs. I mean, I said it I think I said it in the COVID, talk, is that during Black Lives Matter and all that movement, we had such an opportunity time to have at least independent living centers do pilot programs around police brutality and Black and brown communities, and it just didn't happen. It's like, oh my God, it's such a good opportunity that I just saw that just, passed away.
There's another thing I've been wanting to ask you is about like disability justice is like the question that you asked me earlier about like how do we address like Black ableism, and disability justice for me has like been somewhat of a vehicle to be able to communicate with people, at least like have like conversations around it, because it's addressing like a Black experience in a way that like disability rights doesn't. But along with that is like the co-optation of disability justice, right?
Oh,
Like
God.
there's like institutions that like that have disability justice as a part of it, and one, like it's just like not accurate. Like disability justice can't live within an institution, right? And then like it wavers from all of the principles. Like it is like something that is abolitionist. It is something that is like striving for justice and not like rights-based anything. So yeah, I just like want to get your thoughts on like what you feel about the co-optation of it, and the fact that it's being co-opted not just by our own people but by white folks as well.
Yeah.
And like what that means for a movement.
Yeah. Oh man, thank you for this for that question, because I feel so mad, and Patty Byrne and the late Stacey Parker just passed away. All the work that we've done in disability justice, Black and brown, straight, queer, trans people. I mean, it's just sad to see that that organizations in academia just like it's running with it without even asking us or even looking back and say, okay, Patty, okay, Leroy, what do you think? And also, if I be honest, it's a given. We've seen institutions do that with hip hop, blues, going all the way back. So, it's a given that it's gonna happen. The really down part about it is that it's happening, and plus all the resources and money is going toward them.
Yeah.
So once again, the people that started it is living on that society trying to do work, that won't ever get the blame from, even our Black leaders, they won't get the blame. So that's what's so frustrating, to look at it, and it's like, oh my God, you guys are taking it, and you guys are not even Black, you don't even have the principles. I mean, it's right there on the website. It's like, it's just wrong. It's just wrong.
Yeah, it's like it's been a framework that has allowed me to connect with so many different movements. I mean, it demands that it's cross movement, right, and that the solidarity there is anti-capitalist. Like, so yeah, it hurts me to see when I meet like new people that are like energetic about like disability justice, and their idea of it is like this watered down version of it because wherever they're getting it from is like a co-op place. Yeah, that I feel like that really hurts movements, and I think that more people should call that out too, like the co-optation when it happens.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I turned down so many gigs, so many awards, so many. You know, I turned down freaking Obama when he wanted me in his cabinet because I know it's not true. It's not honest. You know, and I know it's hard for other people to do that because they look at awards as a stepping stone. You know, they look at a hashtag going viral as a stepping stone. You know, so yeah, it's hard to see that our own people will pimp it for a grant or something. You know.
What's I got just one last question for you.
Yeah.
Like how do you how do you navigate that? And you kind of alluded to it right now. You talked about you just uh, uh, turned down an opportunity to go to the White House to be a part of Obama's cabinet. Like, how do you? I don't know. How do you balance that? Because you call people out all the time. Like you tell the truth in public in a way that not a lot of people do, like myself included. Like, but I know a lot has to come with that. Like,
Yeah.
people have to like say things about you. Opportunities are blocked. Like, I don't know. How do you navigate? How do you deal with that? How do you rest well with it?
Well, I think I know that I surround myself with real people that A loves me and that A that's doing real work. You know, Poor Magazine, Sins Invalid, you know. So I surround myself with real people, and that keeps me it keeps me online and say, okay, Leroy, you're doing good work. You don't need that 4 pound Instagram. I just got I was separate a dancer, black disabled dancer, was on the board of this COVID-19 funding, and she put my name into the group, and I got a small award because of that. So just to realize that other people got my back out there, it is good for me. And I also redefine words. I redefine what famous is. My famous is being connected to my community. It's not being on stage with Jay-Z. I mean, I think Christopher Reeves came to Krip-Hop the first year and tried to buy Krip-Hop, offered me $10,000. I was like, what? You had no politics, but I could back because I realized that that Krip-Hop is larger than just a paycheck.
Yeah, that reminds me of Solange's album when Master P was like, "Yo, they tried to offer me 10 million, so I knew I was worth like 100."
Good. Very good. Well, how do you, how same question to you, how do you keep on going, being a black disabled man, especially knowing in Connecticut,
Yeah, Connecticut is a new one. I'm still like transitioning and figuring out,
I bet.
yeah, what the landscape is. But no, I feel like as long as like I'm making, long as I'm not like wavering on my morals and principles, like that allows like me to have peace, which I'm much more interested in. Um, as I become older, is like having like the ability to sleep well, and I can sleep well knowing that like I missed out on a check, even though if like that like really hurts, because like it's not something that I don't believe in. So I try to have that guide me, and then just have faith, like really have faith that I'm gonna be okay. Um,
Mm.
yeah, and I mean it comes along with like attacks and things like that as well too. So I'm fine with that, and that's like the sacrifices, if it is a sacrifice, I guess, that I'm willing to make, because I feel like the work that I'm a part of and like the people that I'm doing with, like collectively, like we are strong enough to like withhold things. And we have like power, like we actually have power, like when we live in the truth, like and we stand firm in it, in our beliefs, that we get more respect, people respect us, and we have power to actually like move the shit that we want to move forward. um when we're not like being real about like the things that we see, it feels like it's very easy to be moved. um and yeah, we just don't have a lot of power. And I'm interested in building power outside of institutions. So that's like something that like we absolutely have to do.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. Oh, thank you so much, Dustin.
I appreciate this.
Yeah, this is great. I've been dying to, to talk to you and, to get your insights. And like I said, when I heard about your work around police brutality and institutionalization, I was like, oh, yes. So, thank you for your work.
Word. And you know I appreciate you, and yeah, you already know.
Okay. Okay. Have a good one.
All right.
All right. Peace.